Yes. So let me again begin. I think there was a technical problem with this. So let me open the document and we'll be continuing from there. Look at this. I'm going to the document now. In fact, let me have the discussion from here. So we have seen up to this 1909 to 1919. So this is what we have understood. So let me talk to you regarding the Government of India Act of 1919. This act came into picture when the Indian National Congress became very active during the First World War and launched the Home Rule movement. This act, this particular one is also called Montague-Chelmsford reforms. The meaning is that this act has become, this came into the picture after the report has been submitted by these two people and they have suggested so many reforms. Hence, this is one which is very, very important. And regarding that, we are going to have a discussion now. Let me straight away open the document to you and have a discussion on this one. So this is called the Montague-Chelmsford reforms. Chelmsford was then the Viceroy of India and the Montague was the then Secretary of State for India. Okay. Now, I'm scrolling it down. On August 20th, 1917, the British government has made a declaration that the policy of His Majesty's government is that of increasing association of the Indians in every branch of administration and the gradual development of self-governing of the institutions with a view to the progressive realization of the responsible government in British India as an integral part of the British Empire. What is the meaning of this? Again, a simple concept. So today, we have the responsible governments at both at the central level and state level. So the meaning is that the governments are expected to be in the power as long as they are answerable, they are responsible to the legislatures. That is the reason why the central government is responsible to the lower house of the parliament and the state government is responsible to the state legislative assembly. And this concept has come into the picture since that time. Otherwise, after the British has taken the complete control over India through the 1858 Act, they started using the word good government in India. So hence they need to focus on the aspirations of the Indians that should be fulfilled. Hence various acts have come into the picture over a period of time. And now we are discussing about the 1919 Act. Okay, I'm opening the document. I'll show it to you the points now again. So this is one point. Next, I'm going ahead. Just a moment. Yeah, look at this. So this Montague-Chelmsford, they were entrusted with the responsibility of formulating the proposals for the said policy, and the Government of India Act 1919 gave a formal shape to the same. Meaning is simple. They were given the responsibility of giving the proposals, and based on those proposals, 1919 Act has come into the picture. Meaning, the report of Montague-Chelmsford led to the enactment of the Government of India of 1919. Look at the next point. This act introduced the diarchy or the dual government. Kindly remember a few points. When I'm talking about the diarchy, this is nothing but dual government, rather two governments that are present. And by this time, if you look at India, so there is both the central government and also the state government. But the concept of diarchy was introduced only in the states. But instead of using the word state, we are using the word provinces. That is the provincial government. And in the provinces again, the concept of diarchy was introduced. So during this time, the subjects were divided into transferred subjects and the reserved subjects. Kindly remember, yesterday also I was telling you, India was headed by the Governor General and he was called Viceroy. But at each province, we have somebody called the governors. And when it comes to the transferred subjects, the governor is answerable to the legislative council at the province level. Whereas with the reserved subjects, he is not answerable. That is the meaning of the diarchy. I will open the document now. I'll again show you those points. Look at this. This is one important point which is very frequently asked in the examination. Through the Government of India Act 1919, where the concept of diarchy was introduced. Remember, it is at the provinces and not at the central level. Now, next one. This act has demarcated the central and provincial subjects. Today also we have the union list and the state list. And this act has demarcated the powers between the central administration and the state administration. Now, if you go to the provincial subjects, these provincial subjects were further divided into transferred subjects and the reserved subjects. What do you mean by this? Look at this. I'm explaining it now. The transferred subjects are those subjects that are administered by the governor with the aid of the ministers and responsible to the legislative council, in which the proportion of elected members was raised to 70%. Meaning there are so many elected members. But the idea is that when you are talking about the transferred subjects, governor, he has to be responsible. He, not Governor General, please. Governor General is for the entire India. He was called the Viceroy. But I am talking about the province, and he is the governor here. And he is responsible to the legislative council. Next. Hence, the foundation of the responsible government was first introduced in the narrow sphere in the form of transferred subjects. Narrow sphere means partially the concept of responsible government was introduced. Why? Why we are using the word, the concept called the partial? I am introducing the word partial because for all the subjects, they are not answerable to the legislative council. Only for the transferred subjects they are answerable, and for the reserved subjects they are not answerable. Hence, I have used the word partially. The concept of responsible government was introduced. Look at this next point. The reserved subjects, on the other hand, were to be administered by the governor and his executive council without any responsibility to the legislature. If there is a responsibility towards the legislative council, that is called a transferred subjects. Otherwise, it is the reserved subjects where they are not answerable to the legislature. Look at this. The source of revenue was also divided into two categories, so that the provinces could run the administration with the aid of revenue raised by the provinces by themselves. So that this is what is happening in India today. At each level, there is a fixation of the responsibility. At each level, there is a concept of getting the revenue from various sources. That's the reason our taxes today are divided into central government taxes and also the state government taxes. But if I go back to 1919, the source of revenue was also divided into the provincial sources, provincial taxes here, and also the central level. What is the mechanism here? The mechanism is nothing but to strengthen the provincial government so that they will have their own budget. Next one. So for the first time, the provincial budget was separated from the central budget. Today, if you look at India, you might have seen so many times, at the central level, the finance minister will be presenting the budget in the Lok Sabha. And at the each state level, the state finance minister will be presenting the budget. Meaning, the concept of budget is separated in India, one for the central level and the second one is at the state level. And this was first introduced during 1919 Act. That is the basic idea. Since then, we are using it. Even after the commencement of the Constitution, we are following the same concept and the same idea. Okay, now again I'm opening the document. Look at this. The control of the Governor General over the provinces was retained by empowering the governor to reserve the bill for the consideration of the Governor General. Clear what is the meaning of this? Governor is at the provincial level, still he is under the control of the Governor General, because the governor can reserve the bill for the consideration of the Governor General. At the state level, they cannot take the complete decision during that time. Look at this. This Government of India Act of 1919 also introduced the concept of bicameralism at the central level. On day one itself, we have understood what is the meaning of the bicameralism. One is the upper house, second one is the lower house. It was introduced for the first time through 1919 Act, where only at the central level, not at the state level. Hopefully, I'm clear. Next, I'm going to the next point. The upper house was called Council of State, which is composed of 60 members. Out of this, 34 members were elected. Clear? Kindly look at this one. So today's Council of State is different from that Council of State. Today we are independent. At that time, everything was decided by the British government. But the name was same. The upper house was called Council of State. Even today also we are using the word Council of States, but the number is different. The procedure for election, elected members are different again. But when it comes to the lower house, that lower house was called the Legislative Assembly. Kindly remember, today our lower house at the central level is called Lok Sabha. But I am talking about the 1919 Act. At that time, the concept of bicameralism was introduced, and the lower house was called Legislative Assembly. Don't compare with the Legislative Assembly at the state level today. No, I am talking about the central level. Upper house was called Council of States, and the lower house was called Legislative Assembly, where the strength was 144, and out of that 104 were elected. Okay, now the powers of both upper house and the lower house was equal, except that the power to vote on the budget was given only to the lower house. Right? Kindly recollect certain points what I told you on day number 1 when I am talking about the introduction to the Constitution. During that time, I made it very, very clear, saying that with respect to the money bills, only lower house has the power, and the Rajya Sabha does not have any powers. Hopefully, you remember all the points. And in fact, this concept was introduced during that time itself. Meaning, when the bicameral legislature was introduced, so you should be giving equal powers to both the houses. But since beginning in India, voting on the budget, this responsibility has been entrusted only with the Lok Sabha, and the Rajya Sabha does not have these functions, does not have the power to vote on the budget. This is not a new concept. Since 1919, we are using the same concept in India. Okay, that is the reason remaining aspects, both the Council of States during that time and the Legislative Assembly of that time, both have equal powers, except the budget can be voted only by the lower house of the central legislature. That is the basic idea. Okay, even today also we are continuing with the same thing. And the concept of election was introduced, and the Indian Legislative Council consists of the upper house and the lower house. This is what we have seen. Next one. Next one's here. The majority of the members from both the houses are elected directly. Again, it is a difference. So today, majority of the members in the lower house of the parliament are elected directly, but whereas the Rajya Sabha members are elected indirectly. But during that time, if you remember, just to look at the point, both the houses, majority of the members are elected directly. Okay, next one. Yesterday, when I am talking about the 1909 Act there, we are speaking something about the communal representation. And that communal representation was there only for the Muslims. This is what we have discussed during that time. Okay. Now, but the 1919 Act extended the communal representation for Sikhs, Indian Christians, Europeans, and Anglo Indians. In the brackets, kindly see here, the 1909 Act introduced communal representation only for the Muslims and not for all the communities. Okay, kindly remember this. Slowly, they started expanding the concept of communal representation. These are the important points for both preliminary and the main examination. 1909 Act, communal representation. What is the meaning of this? Yesterday also I was telling you, it is nothing but in certain constituencies, the Muslims are elected only by the Muslim voters. Other category people are not permitted to either contest in the elections or vote in that election. So this is called the separate electorate. This is called the communal representation. This is how the British government tried to divide and rule in India. And over a period of time, through the 1919 Act, they wanted to expand. They wanted to expand the concept of communal representation to other categories also. That's the reason why the Sikhs, Indian Christians, clear, and the Europeans, for these people, again the concept of communal representation has been introduced. Very, very important one. Now I am moving further here. Next one. This act also provided for the establishment of the Public Service Commission. Kindly see here what is the meaning of Public Service Commission. Now here I am talking about the Union Public Service Commission. In fact, originally it was called Federal Public Service Commission. For the first time in India, the British government has planned for setting up a Public Service Commission. But otherwise, since 1854, Indians were also permitted to write the examination, but not in India, only in London. So some of the Indians who were interested and were able to afford, they used to go to England. They used to write the examination there, and if they get selected, they used to come back to India and serve in India. That was the story. So over a period of time, there was a demand in India that the examination has to be conducted in India. Hence, a Public Service Commission has to be established in India itself. That was the demand. So in order to fulfill this demand, through the 1919 Act, the British government has planned for establishing a Federal Public Service Commission. And today, I am using the word Union Public Service Commission. But that Federal Public Service Commission was established in India in the year 1926. Act 1919. But originally it was established in the year 1926. So since then we have the Federal Public Service Commission in India. Now, look at this. Accordingly, the Public Service Commission was set up for recruiting the civil servants. Okay. Now look at this. We have already seen this. The Act of 1919 also provided for the separation of provincial budget, that is the state budget, from the central budget. Kindly remember, very, very important. We have introduced the concept of diarchy at the provinces, not at the central level. And through the same act, so we have divided the subjects between the central and the provinces. Next, the concept of bicameralism was also introduced through 1919 Act only at the central level and not at the state level, not at the provincial level. In the similar manner, this act also provided for the separation of the provincial budget from the central budget. Right? Next point. The 1919 reforms failed to fulfill the aspirations of the people in India, and that led for Swaraj, that is called self-government. And this agitation was started under the leadership of Bapuji, that is our Mahatma Gandhiji, right? And accordingly, later what happened? So this agitation was going on. So it was a very serious agitation during that time, and the days were going on, years were going on. Later, the government of India, that is nothing but the British government in India, it wanted to look into the concept of the after effects of implementation of the 1919 Act. Accordingly, the Simon Commission was appointed, and the Simon Commission has came to India. And after it came to India, Indians have protested against the Simon Commission with the black flags. And the reason is only one, because there was no Indian and all the people are the British people. Because it is completely a white commission, so there was no Indian. That is the reason why this Simon Commission, the people in India, they have protested against the Simon Commission. But even then, they have come, they did their work, and they have submitted report back to the government. And accordingly, roundtable conferences have been taken place. I will show you that story now. Let me open the document again. Kindly have a look at this. Now, look at this. So, in the year 1927, a statutory commission was appointed under the chairmanship of Simon to inquire into and report on the working of the 1919 Act. So, this is the basic purpose. 1919 Act we have implemented, and what are the after effects? So, to inquire into that one and to submit the report, this commission was appointed. Okay, I'm going to the next line. Look at this. Look at this. We have a question from the year 2004 UPSC. The Montague-Chelmsford reforms, the Montague-Chelmsford report formed the basis for, in the beginning of the class itself, I told you, the answer is the Indian Councils Act of 1919. Just remember this. This is the point. Okay. Next one. I am going to next line. Is a Simon Commission. So let me tell you a few points about the Simon Commission. This commission was appointed by the British government in November 1927. It was a 7-member commission, and the name of the chairman was Sir John Simon. Okay, look at this. Look at this, the point. The purpose of the commission was to report on the condition of India under the new constitution. Kindly remember, I am talking to you a subject called historical background of the Indian constitution. Is it okay? And I told you yesterday itself, we have the Indian constitution only on January 26th, 1950. Since then, we have our own constitution. But before that, there were rules, there were regulations, there were acts in India. And whatever the acts that were present during that time, that was considered to be a constitution. Hence, they have used this word, Constitution of 1919. Very, 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 very important. Okay. Now, again, I'm going back to the document. Kindly have a look at this. So the purpose of the commission was to report on the condition of India under the new constitution. Look at the next point. All the members of the committee were British. Hence, all parties boycotted the commission. The Simon Commission submitted the report in the year 1930. Kindly remember this one. Because all the 7 members were British people, Indians have not accepted and they have rejected the Simon Commission, and the Simon Commission was welcomed with the black flags. Black flag is nothing but it is a protest against a commission, and this commission, even after that, it went ahead. It submitted the report in the year 1930. Now, the Simon Commission recommended for the abolition of a diarchy. Kindly remember, just now I told you what is the meaning of the diarchy, and that diarchy was introduced only in the provinces. But the Simon Commission has recommended for the abolition of the diarchy. Look at this next point. This commission also recommended for the continuation of the communal electorate, that is nothing but a separate electorate. I told you already here, through 1909, we have introduced the concept of separate electorate for Muslims. Through 1919, it has been extended to some other communities we have discussed just now. And this commission recommended for continuing the communal electorate. Okay, now look at the next point. The British government has convened three round table conferences to consider the proposals of the Simon Commission. Obviously, what will happen? The this is the report. Report is nothing but set of recommendations that is made by the Simon Commission, and that is not final. Final decision will be always taken by the government of the day. Hence, the British government has convened the three round table conferences. Okay, now look at this. The conferences to be attended by the representatives of the British government and also from British India and also from the princely states. Okay, so from various categories, the representatives are supposed to attend. And in the brackets, I have given you something. Kindly read that one. Regarding the roundtable conferences, let us try to learn more during the study of the national movement. Okay, let me keep the topic for the discussion during that time. We'll have a detailed discussion about the roundtable conferences. We'll see. Look at this. The three roundtable conferences were held between 1930 and 1932. And this is important point. Kindly remember, Mahatma Gandhi attended the second roundtable conference only. Okay, kindly remember, this is one point which is again asked in the examination. On the basis of these discussions, a white paper on constitutional reforms was prepared and the same was submitted to the parliament. Important one here. First is the 1919 Act. Then we have come across with the Simon Commission. Then we have come across with the roundtable conferences. And the outcome of the roundtable conferences that has been placed before the Parliament, British Parliament, and these recommendations were incorporated in the Government of India Act of 1935. Okay, now I'm shifting to some other point here. Next point, there is something called communal awards. What is the meaning of this? Let's try to see here. Here, one thing I would like to tell you. For the examination point of view, be very, very clear about the sequence of the events. Because in the examination, if you are answering any preliminary question, especially the civil services level, sometimes they are asking the questions to find out the chronology. So chronology is nothing but the sequence of the events that happened, and that sequence is important. Anyways, I'll show you certain questions over a period of time, but otherwise, even in writing the main examination also, you need to mention it. For example, see here, because of any reason, first you write about the roundtable conferences and then you write about the Simon Commission. It will be a wrong. That will give a very, very serious wrong impression, and that will affect the total marks that are being given to us. So hence we need to be very careful. That is the reason why revision is a must. Keep on revising these points. So as you revise more, the more you will be remembering. That's it. Okay. So remember the sequence. That is another key of success in the examination. Look at this. Next one. On August 4th, 1932, the communal award was announced by Ramsay MacDonald. Who is this man? He was then the Prime Minister of British. Communal award was announced by then Prime Minister of British, and he was Ramsay MacDonald. And this is meant for providing the extended separate electorate to the scheduled caste. Very, 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 very important one. Separate electorate 1909. Separate electorate 1919. Again, the concept of separate electorate has been extended to the scheduled caste, that is through the 19th, that is in the form of the communal award. So that has been announced by Ramsay MacDonald in the year 1932. Look at this. Next point. In fact, the concept of separate electorate for the depressed classes was raised by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Next one. The proposal was accepted by the British, and the British has announced the communal awards. And if you look at Mahatma Gandhi ji, he opposed this. Mahatma proposed by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, but it was opposed by Mahatma Gandhi on the grounds that this proposal would disintegrate the Hindu society. That is the reason why Mahatma Gandhi opposed for this one. It will disintegrate the Hindu society. That was the opinion of the Mahatma Gandhi during that time. And immediately after that, Mahatma Gandhi began his indefinite hunger strike in Eravada jail that is present in Pune, Maharashtra. And this indefinite hunger strike was initiated against the separate electorate for a scheduled caste. Hence, this 1932 communal award is very, very important. So we are involving three people here. Number one is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, and he proposed this one. It has been accepted by the British government, and then Prime Minister of British, Ramsay MacDonald, he accepted for this, and Mahatma Gandhi opposed for this, and his opinion was this proposal would disintegrate the Hindu society, and in order to express his feelings against this particular award, communal award, Mahatma Gandhi started indefinite hunger strike, and at that time he was there in Eravada jail. Okay, now, and after this communal award of 1932, in the same year there was a Pune Pact. Just now I told you, Eravada jail is located in Pune, and the Pune Pact of 1932. So this is an agreement here. Look at this. As Mahatma Gandhi went on to hunger strike, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was under tremendous pressure to save the life of Mahatma Gandhi. Hence, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar accepted for an agreement. So this is an agreement between the Dalits. Then it was called depressed classes. So today you need to use the word Dalit. This is an agreement between the Dalits of India led by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and the upper caste Hindus of India. And this took place on September 24th, 1932 at Yaravada jail. Under this Pune Pact of 1932, remember this very important point, there shall be seats reserved for the depressed classes out of the general electoral seats in the provincial legislatures. Meaning there should not be any separate electorate, but within this general electoral seats, some seats will be reserved for the Dalits. So that was the understanding during that time. It was accepted, and it was called the Pune Pact. This happened in the same year, 1932. Kindly remember, Communal Award, 1932. Pune Pact, again in 1932. Next, we are coming across with the Government of India Act of 1935. So this act is considered to be one of the major acts for India, right? So here, when we discuss about the next topic, we are going to have some points here. When we are discussing about the next topic, that is the sources of the Indian Constitution, we use one statement during that time. That statement is that the major source of Indian Constitution is Government of India Act of 1935, meaning more than 70% of the content that is present in the Indian Constitution, we have taken this straight away from the Government of India Act of 1935. Clear? Hence, this is important. So kindly understand few points which are given here with respect to this one. Look at this. The Government of India Act of 1935 prescribed a federation. I told you what is the meaning of the federation. This act also divided the powers into three lists: federal list, provincial list, and a concurrent list. And in today's constitution also, we have the concept here. Look at this one. Instead of federal list, we are using the word union list. Provincial list, instead of the word provincial, we are using the word state list. And number three, concurrent list, the same name is being used as it is, but it was began with 1935 Act. Look at this. The residuary powers were vested with the viceroy. Okay, see, one important word we have come across with this. This is the residuary powers. What is the meaning of the residuary power? I'll tell you in the next class when I talk about the sources of the Indian Constitution. Okay, but just remember this one. The residuary powers were vested with the viceroy. Right? Viceroy is the person who is at the highest level. Okay, and even today also, just to remember one thing, residuary powers are vested with the central government and not with the state governments. Just to remember this point. But what is the meaning of the residuary powers? I'll talk to you in the next class. Look at this. If you look at this again, the Government of India Act 1935 abolished the diarchy in the provinces. Hopefully you remember all the points. 1919 Act has introduced the diarchy at the provinces. 1935 Act abolished the diarchy in the provinces. Okay. Next point, if you look at this, look at this. Now, this Government of India Act of 1935 provided the diarchy at the center, abolished the diarchy at the provinces, and provided the diarchy at the central level. But this did not come into operation. Okay, look at this next one. The responsible government was introduced in provinces. The executive authority of the province was also exercised by the governor on behalf of the crown and not as a subordinate of the governor general. Previously, he was a subordinate. He was acting like a subordinate to the governor general, but now he will be acting independently, where he will be acting on behalf of the crown. Very, very important point. Okay. Next one. The Government of India Act of 1935 introduced bicameralism. Right? Kindly remember, through 1919 Act, we introduced bicameralism at the central level and not at the provincial level. But the Government of India Act of 1935 introduced the bicameralism at the provinces, but not in the all provinces, but only in the 6 out of the 11 provinces. And it was called Legislative Assembly and the Legislative Council. How do you differentiate this? When you are talking about the provinces here, they used to say Provincial Legislative Assembly and the Provincial Legislative Councils. Okay, next. In the rest of the provinces, the legislature was unicameral, meaning only in 6 it was bicameral, and in the remaining provinces it was unicameral. And I told you already the meaning of the bicameral and unicameral. There is no confusion. I'm just going ahead. Look at this. This act also extended separate electorate for the depressed classes, that is the scheduled caste, women and laborers. So this is how. So meaning separate electorate means 1909, 1919 and also the 1935. Very, very important. But while writing in the examination, you need to make it very, very clear, very, very clear for which category 1909 has extended the communal electorate. 1919 for whom? 1935 for whom? Kindly remember. Next, this act also extended the right to vote, that is called franchise, the right to vote. With this, 10% of the population got the voting right. 10% of the population got the voting right with the right to franchise. Kindly remember. Next, what do you mean by 10%? Just like today, every person was not permitted to vote in the election. only the selected population was permitted to vote in the election. That selection was based on the education, tax payment, and a loyalty towards the British government. Only some section was given the right to vote, and not everybody like today. And this act also granted limited franchise on the basis of a tax, property, and education. So this is what I told you now. Clear? Now, next one. See here, it's one suggestion from my side here. The suggestion is that you need to remember these words also. You need to remember these words because in the examination you need to write these words itself. Example, let me tell you. When you are writing about the 1919 or 1935 Act, don't try to use the word the state legislature. That would be a wrong. Maybe the meaning wise it may be correct, but for the examination point of view, because you are talking about the situation of before 1950, you need to mention it as the provinces. That's it. Hence, provincial legislature. Hence, during that time, if you are using the word lower house and upper house, you need to use the same terminology what I have used so far. Okay, so don't try to use the today's terminology. Next one. It also provided, the Government of India Act also provided for the establishment of the RBI, that is the Reserve Bank of India, in the year 1935. Regarding RBI, I spoke to you in some of the classes in the current affairs some time back. But anyways, when we come to the topic in Indian economy, we'll have a detailed discussion again regarding RBI. But just remember this point. Few points are there. Look at this. Establishment of RBI was recommended by Hilton Young Commission in the year 1926. Okay, and accordingly, RBI was first set up in 1935 at Calcutta. Today we are using the word Kolkata. Okay, just remember this. And later, after 2 years, RBI was shifted to Bombay, but now I am calling that city as Mumbai. Is it okay? Kindly remember these points. But RBI came into the picture because of the Government of India Act of 1935. Who recommended for this? Hilton Young Commission recommended for this. When it was established, 1935, where? Calcutta, where it has been shifted later to Bombay in the year 1937. Hence, today, the headquarters of RBI, the Reserve Bank of India, is located in Mumbai. Right? Next. Next one. Look at this. Oh God, one moment. Yeah. The Government of India Act of 1935 provided for the establishment of provincial and joint public service commissions. Kindly remember, this is one important point for me. You need to remember. I used the word the public service commissions even when I was talking about the Government of India Act 1919. And through 1919 Act, we have established the Public Service Commission. It was called Federal Public Service Commission. So today I am using the word UPSC. That was established through 1919 Act. But now I am talking to you regarding provincial public service commissions and joint public service commissions. In today's constitution, we have all the three concepts even today also. But instead of using the word provincial public service commission, we are using the word the state public service commissions. And today's constitution also permitted for the creation of the joint public service commissions. Okay, now I'll just show you this document. That concept has come into the pictures through 1935 Act. That is the basic idea. Now look at this. Next one. This act also provided for the establishment of a federal court. Federal court means, I told you in the beginning also, it is a Supreme Court. And this federal court was set up in 1937 in Delhi. Look at this. and the seat of federal court was the Chamber of Princes in the Parliament building in Delhi. So that was the beginning. And the first Chief Justice of the Federal Court was Maris Guire. He was the first Chief Justice, and the present Supreme Court was established in the year 1950 on January 28th. Just remember this particular date here. Constitution came into force on January 26th, and present day Supreme Court was established on January 28th. Okay, but otherwise, for GK point of view, kindly remember these points. Federal Court was established through 1935 Act, and it was established in New Delhi, and it was located in the Chamber of Princes in the Parliament building in Delhi. And who was the first Chief Justice? The first Chief Justice was Maris Guire. Kindly remember this one. So we have a question. We have a question here. Kindly you can answer it very easily. Just look at the question and answer it. Which one of the following is not a feature of the Government of India Act of 1935? Very, very, very important. Diarchy at the central and as well as the provinces. Is it right? 1935 Act has recommended for abolition of the diarchy at the provinces and recommended for introduction at the central level. Hence, option A itself is wrong for me. Hence, I can go for it. Right? So, in this particular situations, we need not read. Once we are very, very sure that option A is the correct answer in this question, I need not read B, C, D. If you still feel that you have time, you can read B, C, and D. Otherwise, you can straight away go for answer A. So that will give you the marks. Okay. Now, I'm shifting to the next line. UPSC 2005. Again, we have some questions here. Consider the following statements. The Government of India Act 1935 provided for 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3 are given here. And out of that, we need to pick up the one. Which of the statements given above are correct? Number 1, the provincial autonomy. Yes, that is right. Establishment of the federal court. Yes, we have seen that is also right. And all India Federation at the center. That is also right. Hence, option D is the correct answer. 1, 2, 3 are correct with respect to this question. Again, I'm shifting. Next line. So we again have again one more question that was asked in the year 2002. Look at this. The real intention of the British to include the princely states in the Federal Union proposed by the Government of India Act of 1935 was to. Kindly read the statement, please. So this is what is asked in the year 2002. What was the real intention of the British to include the princely states in the Federal Union that was proposed by the Government of India Act of 1935? Meaning is simple. Entire India was divided into British India and the princely states. Princely states were given the freedom till that time, but the Government of India Act has proposed for the princely states will also become the part of the Federal Union. But why? What was the intention? Look at this. To exercise more and direct political and administrative control over the princely states. No, that is wrong. Already they are exercising that one indirectly. There was no issue. Involve the princes actively in the administration of the colony. No, that is also wrong. To finally effect the complete political and administrative takeover of all the princely states by the British. That is also wrong. But to use the princes to counterbalance the anti-imperialist doctrines of the nationalist leaders. So this is how you can counter the national leaders at the local level. So this was the idea of the British government. Hence, they have proposed that the princely states will become the part of the Federal Union. So option D is the correct answer. We have another question. UPSC 2004. Consider the following statements and look at this one here. Some of the main features of the Government of India Act of 1935 were 1 to 3 are given. 1 to 3 are given. We need to pick up. So, what are the correct statements here? You can find it out very easily. Abolition of the diarchy in the governor's provinces. Is it a right statement? Yes, it is a right statement. It was introduction was proposed by 1919 Act, but abolition was recommended by this Simon Commission. Later, through Government of India Act 1935, diarchy at the governor's provinces was abolished. But kindly remember, this act proposed for establishment of diarchy, introduction of diarchy at the central level, but it was not done. But otherwise, statement number 1 is correct for me. Abolition of diarchy in the governor's provinces. Number 2, power of the governor to veto the legislative action and to legislate on their own. That is right. Meaning, the governor has been given the power to legislate on his own. Meaning, if the legislative council proposes something also, the governor will have the upper hand and he can veto the legislative action. Right? Next. So, the 1 and 2 both are right. When it comes to the abolition of the principle of communal representation, that is wrong. This particular act proposed for extension of the communal representation. We have seen for SCs, women and labor, this act has proposed for the extension of the communal representation. Hence, option 3 is the wrong. And if you go to the which of the following statements given above are correct, so answer should be 1 and 2. Hence, option B is the correct answer for this. Okay, kindly see here, especially when it comes to the civil service examination, you need to read each and every point very, very clearly. Because of any reason, if you overlook any particular point, and there is every possibility that you may be losing the mark. So hence, complete focus, complete concentration while reading, and read it and try to recollect the points and kindly go for the correct answer. Okay, next, the last one, we have something called Indian Independence Act of 1947. So this is what we are looking into now. But see here, with respect to this particular topic, I am telling you, yesterday also I made it very, very clear. Today also I am making it very, very clear, saying that this historical background of Indian Constitution is very, very, very important for examination. Number 1, it is looking like a bit difficult for us. In fact, in the beginning, it looks like a little bit difficulty, but over a period of time, everything will get adjusted. This is the area where most of the people are losing the marks. So this is the area where I want you to score the marks. I told you already. Okay. Now, once you become comfortable in this particular chapter here, so this will be an added advantage even for the main examination when you are writing the history part of general studies. At the same time, with this particular knowledge, one entire chapter in public administration means syllabus is also covered. If you want, you can watch when we start the public administration session. If you are opting for public administration, it will become easy for us. So that is the reason why Indian polity subject is more useful for those people who are opting for the public administration optional in the main examination. So that is the biggest advantage. 70% will be covered. Okay. Now, so let me talk to you about the last one. So that is the Indian Independence Act of 1947. Look at this. On February 20th, 1947, the Prime Minister of England, Sir Clement Attlee, declared that the British rule in India would end by June 30th, 1948. Kindly remember, this is a very, 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 very important point for me. I am talking to you about the independence of India, but it is a place where I have mentioned June 30th, 1948. What is the meaning of this? Originally, they have decided to give independence to India by June 30th, 1948. So that the idea is very simple. During that time, the British wanted India to finish up their constitution by this time, so that it can transfer the powers to the Indians and it can leave away. Kindly see here, but we got the independence in 1947 itself, meaning well in advance the date that was proposed by the British, we got the independence. So that is because of the disturbances that were taking place in India. And regarding that story, I'll talk to you in the next class. But otherwise, if you look at this, 1948, that was the original date. But in fact, we got the independence in 1947. During the time of 1939 to 1945, we know that there was World War II that was happening. During that time, Indians were also pressurized. India was also being pressurized by international community to take part in the World War II on behalf of the British. So many developments have been taken place, like Quit India movement and so many things. I'll talk to you regarding all these points later. But once this in 1945, when America has bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki, so there was a sudden stoppage of this war. And later, the concept of United Nations organization has come into the picture. Immediately after that, the British also decided to provide independence to India. But if you give it the independence immediately, the power will be transferred to Indians, where Indians do not have any experience in the administrative affairs. Of course, some people are working in the administration of this British, there is no problem. But every country is expected to have its own constitution so that you will have your own goals. For that reason, the British government has asked India before June 30th, 1948, you prepare your constitution, and by the time once you prepare the constitution, we'll transfer the power to the hands of India and we'll leave India. Otherwise, the British will have every power to decide to whom the power can be transferred. So this was a statement that was given by the British. Okay. But because of the various developments, like the Muslim League has started demanding for separation of the nation, and unfortunately, that led to a great amount of violence that occurred in India. Lakhs of people have died, and finally, both Indian National Congress and also the British government has accepted for the partition of the nation. Accordingly, the nation was partitioned. And if you want to partition the nation, again, the government of the day must pass a legislation in the parliament. And the government of the day was British. Accordingly, in July 1947, a bill was passed and it became an act in the form of Indian Independence Act of 1947. That was the act which provided for three things. Number one, the existing nation, the so-called India, has been divided. It has been divided into India and Pakistan, number one. Number two, both India and Pakistan were given independence. That is the reason, kindly remember, India got independence through Indian Independence Act of 1947. Pakistan also got independence through Indian Independence Act of 1947. Next, number three. The head in India was called Viceroy, and the designation of the Viceroy has been changed to Governor General of India. So these are the things what happened during this 1947 Act. I'll show you the document. Look at this. Yeah. On February 20th, 1947, the Prime Minister of England, Sir Clement Attlee, declared that the British rule in India would end by June 30th, 1948. Muslim League demanded for the partition. On June 3rd, 1947, the government announced that the Constitution is not applicable to unwilling parts of the nations. So, this is a statement that was made by the British. Look at this. Lord Mountbatten, the then Viceroy, put forth the partition plan on the same day, and it was called the Mountbatten Plan. This is also called June 3rd Plan. Kindly remember this. Another important point. At the time of partition, there was a viceroy. He was Lord Mountbatten. In fact, he proposed the plan for the partition. Hence, it was called Mountbatten Plan or June 3rd Plan. June 3rd is nothing but because it was proposed on June 3rd, it was called June 3rd Plan. Next, this plan was accepted by both Congress and Muslim League. Meaning is simple. Though Mahatma Gandhi was not at all interested for the partition because so many people are dying, so he decided to go for the partition. Finally, there was an agreement between both Congress Party and Muslim League. Both the parties have accepted for this. Look at this. The Indian Independence Act of 1947 ended the British rule in India and declared India as an independent and sovereign state from August 15th, 1947. Okay. This act also provided for the partition of the country into India and Pakistan. Kindly remember, even Pakistan was also given independence through this. The office of the Viceroy was abolished and provided for the Governor General for each dominion. Each dominion means for both India and Pakistan, a new office called Governor General was created, and that Governor General was appointed by the Crown. That is the reason why when it comes to India, the then Viceroy of India, Lord Mountbatten, has been appointed as the first Governor General of India. Okay, next. This act also empowered the constituent assemblies to frame and adopt any constitution. So from now onwards, you can prepare your own constitution, you can adopt any constitution. Okay, now look at this. The legislature of India, composed of the Legislative Assembly and the Council of States, ceased to exist on August 14th, 1947, and that is gone. The Indian Independence Act granted freedom to the princely states either to join India or Pakistan or to remain independent. So this is what happened during this time. Okay, next one. The civil servants were allowed to entitle all the benefits. Very, very important. Clear. Let me tell you just one point here regarding this point. What exactly is the meaning of this? I'll tell you later. But Lord Mountbatten became the first Governor General of independent India, and the Jawaharlal Nehru was sworn in as the first Prime Minister of India by Lord Mountbatten. And if you look at the last point here, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, he became the first Governor General of Pakistan. Is it okay? So this is what happened during with the 1947 Act. And the important point for me is that Lord Mountbatten was the first Governor General, and Muhammad Ali Jinnah was the first Governor General for Pakistan. Okay. If you look at this point, the Indian Independence Act granted freedom to the princely states either to join India or Pakistan or to remain independent. Okay. Now, so let me come back to you. So this is the story with respect to the historical background of the Indian Constitution. Okay. And I want you to read this 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, or 5 times, or 100 times if you want, but kindly read it repetitively. And each act and each person, each year is important for the examination point of view. And see here, today is Sunday. So I would like to have one proposal with you. That is nothing but we completed this particular hour today. Why don't we meet again at 9 o'clock in the morning itself? So 9 to 9:45, we'll have a discussion on some other topic also. Hopefully you don't mind. If you have any programs also, already there was a promise between you and me that you will be with me for 1 to 1.5 years. Okay, that's the reason why. So we need to sacrifice certain things. If it is possible for you, please join me at 9 o'clock and we'll have a discussion on some other topic. Is that okay? So we'll be meeting for 45 minutes or 1 hour. We'll try to complete one discussion. Because whatever the subjects we are going to discuss, huge subjects, large subjects, it will take longer period of time. Hence, whenever there is a possibility for us, let's meet very frequently online and we'll have the discussions. Am I clear? So kindly make it convenient. All the people who are there with me now, I request you to please join me at 9 o'clock in the morning. 9 o'clock in the morning itself. Okay, right. Meaning you finish up all your work and you can join me by 9 o'clock. So thank you so much for being with me this morning.